Welcome, Midlife Maven. If this is your first episode tuning into our podcast, we're so thrilled you found us. And we highly recommend starting this journey with us at the very beginning. You see, we have designed this season specifically to guide you step by step to rediscover your purpose and passion in order to fully blossom as a Maven in your midlife. Therefore, we encourage you to pause right here and hop back to episode 1 so that you could follow the progressive roadmap we have created just for you over the coming shows. Rest assured, the insights and aha moments in every episode will compound to help you take ownership of writing your next chapter. Simply search for Midlife at the Mailbox to start at our origin story, or click on the very first episode of Season 3 under our podcast name. Get ready to transform how you approach your midlife and beyond.
Now, let's assume you completed step 1 with a partner, and now you've got 2 to 3 themes from sharing your origin story with that partner that you're really, really stoked to explore. This isn't that was a hard step you just completed if you did it, right? Or if you're thinking about doing it, knowing that once you get to step 2, there's a little bit of fun.
There is a fun.
We always
There is fun.
We always like to splice in a little fun. This doesn't have to feel clinical. This shouldn't feel clinical, to be honest. It should be fun. We like fun. F-U-N.
By spelling fun, it makes it way more fun.
So what do you do with it, right? Like, and this is really can be the fun part of your journey, right, Amy?
Yeah.
I mean, this is where you can try things,
Connect with people.
Yeah, get uncomfortable and to get comfortable. A lot of times that is necessary, and it's not always fun, but it can lead to really productive things along the way. So how do you go about doing this, right?
Yes, Denise, tell us. How do you do this?
So a lot of this is still part of what I would consider thinking work, but it's a little bit more, interactive as well. So
the inevitable thinking work.
Right, the internal work, right? So first and foremost, I highly encourage you to schedule time with yourself to think about these things. Put 15 minutes on your phone calendar twice a week. And by putting in your calendar really makes it a little bit more real, right? A little bit more visible. Trying to make that invisible visible. That's really what this process is all about. So by doing this and having this alone time, it could even be in your car right before you start your commute for the day.
And really think about where you best think.
Yes.
Do you think well in the shower? Do you think well, as you're saying, in your car? Are you a runner and you think best when you're on the trail? That could also be instead of maybe separate time, since time is so, time is so precious, maybe even, combining, the one thing that gets you in the flow, right?
Right. Or when you feel most in your natural state where you can really think about and reflect and have awareness. And so by putting your, some time aside on your phone twice a week was what I'd say to get you going, especially in those earlier days when you're really excited because you did that partner exercise and now you've got some things you want to do some action about. So I do that. And think about when you're self-reflecting, especially coming out of those themes, what moments have brought you joy, pride, and purpose along the way when you were doing those things or thinking about those things. What values come out of that? What matters most to you?
Where are your best thinking times? How do you schedule that time?
Me?
Yeah.
Personally, I would say it's after I drop my kids, weekdays, after I drop my kids off at school, there is a lull in the day. It's a quiet time. I can do that. A lot of times I meditate during that time, but lately, I should be doing some more meditating, but I have been spending more time on my business. So that self-reflection time that I dedicate and carve out during that after drop-off time, Monday through Friday, has really helped me to get more focused.
Yeah, on growing DR.
Yeah, I'm Denise for Career Coaching, and just spending more time on fine-tuning my process and my audience and thinking that through. And of course, I've done the Find Your Why a couple different times in my life, so this is not the first time I'm doing it. I did it back in 2008 when I was working in sales operations and sales communications. And I said, I can't do this forever. It's not that interesting. I liked it, but it wasn't that interesting. I love the people I work with. The company I worked with was really supportive and allowed me to grow. But I kept thinking, people always ask me to help them on their resume. Or my brother's always calling me, asking me about how interview tips. Or like even in 2008, LinkedIn was in its nascent stages, but should I get on LinkedIn? What should I do? And so I thought, what if I studied that? And I did that. And, it didn't look as clean as I'm telling you in this neat exercise.
Correct.
But, I was finding my why a bit clumsily, but I did.
Yeah.
And so I ended up getting my master's, having my company pay for my master's. So they did reimburse me to get my master's in career counseling, San Jose State, which was completely opposite of what I was doing. But just goes to show that I asked, and I was a good employee, I think, and they delivered, and I did. I got my master's paid for.
Through multiple rounds of layoffs, you kept your job. So there you go.
I survived that. So at any rate, just finding some time to think about that and really putting some purpose with that. Time is important. Or even just start meditating if you want to during that time. But it's you time, and then you kind of get used to carving that out for yourself. But that's what I'd say, as you start to explore. Could even be reviving an abandoned passion. Anything like that could really be.
Yeah, I've started pre-COVID. I love Pilates reformer. And so pre-COVID, I did a ton of Pilates reformer. There was a great studio that opened near the house, and then they went virtual. I'm like, well, I'm not doing Pilates virtually, and that was definitely not happening. I'm just gonna walk if I can leave my house. And recently, I've rediscovered a great local studio. So I've got back on the reformer, and even after being gone for a few days, knowing that when I get back into town, and then the next day after I travel, it's always a crazy day. I still put it on the calendar to go. I'm like, we're going to be walking a lot. We're going to be eating. I'm hooked. And so it was on the calendar for Friday to go, and I'm super excited to be there. But there's just certain things. It's so hard, but it just makes it's just a great workout, and it just I feel better.
Yeah, you like it. Yeah. I mean, I tried my first reformer class recently. Tina Williams over in Fresno has a great little studio. She's a former speaker at the women's conference with me.
Reform Pilates if we're doing these shout outs, and we'll Met, Illinois.
She's a listener too. Hi, Tina. So there's that. So reviving those little passions, just kind of getting you time for you. And a lot of times that just allows you to think more about why is it you're here? What do you want to do?
Right.
What was I made for? Right. Which is that famous line that speaks to my soul from the Billie Eilish, from the Barbie movie and the Billie Eilish song. It's a beautiful song for many reasons. Not only is it performed beautifully, but the lyrics just, they dig deep.
They just get you.
They dig deep. But I think we went a little deep there. However,
okay.
Time with yourself, number one. Number two would be to research this idea or topic or interest that you have online, right? And learn more about it. And there's so many ways to learn more about this, whether it's through books. So, pick up a book about this topic.
The library is a really amazing resource.
Yeah, we've all been using our libraries more, and that might sound very 1989. However, libraries have modernized themselves.
And there are so many opportunities at your local library. I know in our area, they have multiple programs that go on each quarter. They bring in speakers. I've spoken. You can learn so much, and it costs you $0, except for, at least in our area, it's the taxpayer money that you're paying for your library. But there's no fee to use. There's no out-of-pocket, essentially, fee to use your library. And their online resources, you direct a lot of clients for LinkedIn.
Ton of untapped resources.
There's great marketing resources.
Most public libraries in major cities that I've seen, New York, Los Angeles, they offer LinkedIn Learning, for example, as a free service if you go online and set up for an online account through your library, which is also, it's no charge. You can get LinkedIn Learning, which actually has a cost on LinkedIn. So job seekers out there, people that want to learn more about a topic, whether it's about a particular industry or career change or any topic really. Like you can go on LinkedIn Learning and get these, these sessions for free through your library from an expert.
Yep. They also offer, if you are a small business and you are looking for like small business coaching, I know my library in Glenview, there's small business coaches that will work with you for free. So if you're in a position that you can't afford to work with somebody, there are people out there that you can schedule time with and work with. One of the coolest classes, if I could say cool about, a class I took at the library, but it was all about how you can, the databases, like if you're a business owner, and you are looking to send a mail piece and you don't want to use one of the direct mail like service companies, there are lists that you can tap into. They're the same lists and databases that you can get that these guys use, that you have to pay, hundreds of dollars for, thousands of dollars for. And so there's so many opportunities that you can tap into.
Or even books,
library.
right? I mean, we talk a lot about Simon Sinek's book. I know 100% for sure, since it's like so widely published, that everyone can get a free copy or a digital copy through their library. So Finding Your Why or Starting with Why by Simon Sinek, which really is the base for what we're talking about here, and how to become the Maven of your midlife, can be found there. So so I highly encourage that. And then of course, looking at community groups and events, just immersing yourself, right? If you are interested in, like, for example, my aunt is the president or vice president, I don't know this year, but she's the vice president of her local succulent club. Ooh. She loves succulents. So the Fresno chapter of their succulent society, she is the president. She started this kind of as she was preparing to retire. She was a social worker in the state of California for, 30 plus years. And she was thinking about what she's going to do in her next third of her life. And so she started to get more involved in that. And that gives her a lot of purpose. She does all sorts of competitions and events, and it gives her community. So,
and even the space that we're in here, I learned as we were kind of getting acclimated this morning, it's called Hub Studio, but the space is like owned by a guy that does something through an organization called Scottsdale Living, and they work and train small businesses on like content and email. So there's anywhere that you are, like dig into like your resources, and it's that other piece of having that conversation, become comfortable with being uncomfortable. So like if you are doing something, you need to tell people what it is that you're doing so that people know how they can help and support you. So the more that you talk about what it is that you're doing or looking to do, the more opportunities, because people do genuinely, at least I know I'm in this camp, like genuinely want people to be successful and want people to find and to achieve like greatness within their life. So if I have resources that I know, even my therapist would joke like you help sometimes too much, that like it's like not a detriment. She would kill me if I like said that, but like not a detriment, but like over helping. But that's just me. That's just my personality. Like I want to be helpful.
And even, and we touch a lot about that in the next episode. So you'll learn about step 3, which is about getting social and getting support. But, step 2 can even just start as something as attending the class. Like, you don't have to become the vice president of the succulent club. And I'm sure my aunt did not do that. She's a listener. But I'm sure she did not do that at first. She might have just attended a club meeting.
Right.
Or like watched a virtual recording of a meeting of the Succulent Society of Fresno.
But at least, she could go, now you could go buy that succulent and know what to do to care for it.
And seeing if she, if she likes it. So those are just some things. I mean, we're already talking about revisiting hobbies and creative outlets or career dreams that you had kind of set aside over the years. I mean, midlife is classic for that. When you become sandwiched, right, which we've talked a lot about, like, when you're taking care of others, whether it's elders or younger children or people, you often kind of forget, or your needs and wants and dreams might have been put to the wayside because you are busy caretaking or caregiving. And so this could be a time to revisit that, because we talked about if not now, when, and that is like ultimately true.
It's now.
It's just starting. Yeah, just starting now, and even just a small step. And maybe you would go to a succulent meeting and you're like, it's not for me. But at least you tried and you knew, and you could kind of check off succulents. Yep. Not for me.
Right, not for me. Mike and I always joke about like the bucket list things. So what did we do? Oh, last when we were in LA over the New Year, we went to the Rose Bowl, like the floats. So like after the Rose Bowl, they like put all the floats on display, and it's really cool. I would go back because I enjoy flowers and I enjoy looking at that. But my boys were like, check, we did that. So, but if you don't go and experience it, that you don't know. And that's the big piece here is that, you know, put yourself out there, get yourself a little uncomfortable. And, you know, I think the other piece is that these steps, you know, finding your why, finding your purpose in midlife doesn't necessarily always just have to be career or, you know, business driven. You know, there's certainly components of that in both of what we're talking about, but it also could just be in discovering like a new passion. Over Christmas, I started playing pickleball for the first time. Everybody's talking about pickleball, and I'm like, what the heck is so great about pickleball? But a month later for my birthday, I had my own pickleball racket and hot pink balls for A2 sales, hot pink pickleballs for A2 sales and marketing, because it was just super, super fun. And now it's another thing that like I can do and enjoy with my family and even friends, part of my networking group. That's going to be a really, I feel like a big thing, you know, going, you know, progressing that into the springtime and summer in Chicago is that the weather will be fine and beautiful, that we could get out and play pickle.
Sure, you believe that.
I do believe that. It will be. It was 65 degrees like 2 days ago. And then there were tornadoes and it was 25.
If you guys forgot, I lived in Chicago for 16 months, but I've been a native Californian. And I will say there was 1 month out of the year with good weather. That was September. That was it.
She was there like a year and a half. Like
I know.
Through the winter.
I give the weather a hard time, but
it actually has been very mild. But anyways, you didn't come here for the weather. But I will say, like going back to my pickleball piece, is that that is something that besides my family, I can play. There's a number of ladies that are friends in my community, like from my son's hockey team that I've discovered like to play, and a bunch of ladies from my networking group that are very much enjoy. So when you have these people in your corner that, you know, beyond just, you know, from like the work, but maybe in life they could start to like support, they are interested in, you know, meeting you on the court. And it's just another way to continue to build layers and get to know people.
Right, and just to look for that more feeling of alive or thriving. And, you know, a lot of times my coaching clients will come to me and say, you know, they feel like their job is the reason that that they might not be,
so many people
might not be feeling, you know, completely fulfilled or unhappy or unsatisfied, dissatisfied. And I mean, that could be the case. However, when you do the Finding Your Why exercise, you might be able to complement other areas of your life outside of your job and not always looking for your profession or your like
as your
vocation
purpose.
As a form of joy or fulfillment. And maybe if you could fill in some of your other time with like playing pickleball because it feeds your competitive nature or your need for socialization or your need to connect with your spouse, or like, hey, you could play with your mom. Like my mom's a big pickleball player.
Yeah, my mom is too.
My mom's like never played a sport before. She loves pickleball. She has a license plate holder and everything on her car.
I love pickle.
Big time. Like, but I, you know, she goes out and she wants to do that. I've never seen that side of my mom.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
My mom's picking up golf again.
But I mean, so I sometimes, depending on the coaching client, I mean, if you come to me about a resume, I'm not going to tell you to play pickleball. However, if you came to me saying, like, I'm just not feeling, you know, that my job is, you know, providing that for me, sometimes if I can break down some layers or find out what really that is, they might not be that unhappy with their job, or that their job isn't necessarily, or their career isn't what stoking that unhappiness. It could be just that maybe they're not balanced enough and their work-life balance is out of place. So how can we revisit that? And while that might sound more like life coaching, sometimes that can come into play when we are, and you know, so I think that doing some of these steps and doing some of this exploration and this you time allows you to be a student of you. And that's the midlife you.
Yes.
Okay. So that's what we're really talking about here, right? Taking stock and note of what moves you, what motivates you, what delights you. I love that word, delights you.
And I would say that the same, being that student of you is the same as like what you could be doing in terms of like the content development for like a particular business or what you want to put out about yourself, right? So, if you're younger and you're listening, and you spent decades putting your drinking pictures up on the internet and, they're still there following around, I'm so sorry. But, what you could start to do is showcase what you do outside of your work, because your work should not be the only thing that's bringing you purpose in your life. And so finding things that do fulfill that vitality in your life and do make you feel full is something that obviously, as we've talked about for 3 seasons, is something that's super important.
Yeah, and I mean that goes to be true too about your professional brand.
Yeah.
Like on LinkedIn, for example, like there's some people that this one gentleman I worked with, he worked in telecom customer support, so cable, like basic cable service, in-home cable service customer support, almost his entire career. He was laid off after 30 years of a long time career, and he really didn't know what to do with himself. He needed to find another job. And we were working on his brand, like what he was really good at. And he's like, I used to, talking all about his customer service and mentoring. And then he's like, he shared with me that he had a green egg barbecue, those specialized barbecues or green egg. And he was like, he's a master griller.
Oh.
And what he would do for his team, because a lot of times people that install cable services, this might have been their first job out of high school, or, they come from differing backgrounds. And he would bring them all together with these barbecues, okay, in Northern California. And he really felt that was an equalizer. He would invite their families, and he learned so much about his employees and was able to mentor them in a different way. And so I said, well, why are we putting this on your LinkedIn profile? I was like, well, does it really matter? And I was like, of course it does. This is so cool. What other customer support managers are doing, or supervisors are doing this? And you know what he did? And I don't coach him anymore. He's moved on, and now he's installing solar panels and supervising teams of solar panels out in different states. He's had to kind of improvise his career path. However, he still talks about his grilling and the lessons that he learned from grilling and that he imparts with his grilling to his team. And so I just thought that's super neat. And
there's so many.
And
life
I mean, never
lessons.
Before has that been acceptable, but it's so acceptable now. Employers want to know about that, and so you've got to dig down, get back to the step 2 exploration, find out what is similar to grilling. What's your grilling story, right?
Yeah.
Like what does that mean to you?
It's just like finding these passions outside of like your work purpose. It just makes you a more interesting person and gives you things that you could have a conversation about and talk about and to connect with other people about.
Yeah, and so that's really, really what we want, in this step. We want you to like encourage you to do that and to learn more about you, and this is a little bit more of a fun way to do it, right? Yep. And so I'd say that. So, here at the Mailbox, we're all about how you can take that next step in exploring your why, and becoming that maven of your midlife. So the next step in the guide that that you've hopefully downloaded, if not for the first episode, that now you will download, can be done at our website, of course, midlifeatthemailbox.com, and check out our free download. And step 2 specifically is going to be, there's going to be a section there where you can talk about ways that in step 2 of the guide, you'll find tips as well as like a summary of what we talked about today, different ways that you can explore and research. So you'll have those notes. And then you'll also have a section where you can just jot down some of these research methods that you might want to try, right? Do you want to attend a class? Do you want to study something? Do you want to read a book? Just write 2 reasons or 2 things that you want, research methods that you want to do in your journey of becoming the midlife maven, and write those down, because when you make something invisible visible, it's so powerful. So you'll have some time there to jot those down in this next step of this process. So lastly, if you want to reach out on social too, you could comment guide on any of our posts or any of our social channels at Midlife at the Mailbox on Instagram, or Amplified by A2 with Amy, and at Denise Rabat on Instagram for both of us. And we will send you that guide right away. And thanks, Amy. This was fun.
This was fun. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.